So we're going to be checking out 3 NIS games that are on a massive sale. Make sure you stay to the end so you can find out which game I think is a definite must own. And if you feel like it, a like and subscribe would be amazing. So I know I'm not the sales guy. If you want good sales videos, go to JP at Good Talk HQ. But I am sort of the NIS America guy, and I couldn't pass this up, this opportunity to tell you guys about 3 games that are like 90% off, and they are well worth your money and time. And the thing is, with NIS, you don't usually get a lot of sales, so I do like to bring it up when we have that opportunity. And as of recording it right now, we have about 6 days in which to pick any of these games up. So sit back, relax, and let me briefly explain these 3 games. And first up, I'm going to start off with a game called Poison Control, which at its core, I think could actually be a really good game. Now, if I'm being honest, most of the story I kind of actually skip through. It has really good elements, don't get me wrong. For me, it's one of those games that has some really creepy elements to it, and it's more like on the romance side. Essentially, you and your soulmate, which is kind of a being from a different dimension, or I don't really get the existence of your soulmate, but is also really tiny at times. None of that makes sense to me at all. It takes you on this wild ride, but if that's not weird enough, you and her actually cleanse nightmares. You cleanse people's hells, and you're in this gigantic kind of wasteland of miasma and enemies, and essentially one of the big mechanics of the game is that you can shift between characters. You can play it as the female poisonette who essentially soaks up all this miasma, this poison, and that's really all she does, but it's very important because this stuff is everywhere and it'll affect you negatively if you run into it. Also, she converts it into ammo, which you really need. And when you switch back to the main character, you can then damage all the enemies in like a third-person shooter, which is a really interesting direction for NIS games. Most of them are typically traditional RPGs, and so taking this is different, and it's fun, actually. Now, for the most part, I consider this to be kind of one of those in-between games. It does have a really good story, like I said, and some of the hells or the nightmares that you're cleansing are very interesting and really solemn, actually. It's just all the other stuff that goes along with it that I don't really love. But typically, this game is $39.99. Right now, it is $3.99. It is so worth that price, because when you're talking about gameplay, like the mechanics, it's really fun and addictive. It's got this great little loop to it. It performs really well. The graphics are really good. The environment is a little sparse for my taste, but really it kind of adds to the fact that you are in like this kind of wasteland or this different world where there's nothing but hell, nightmares, bad stuff. It's a good game. And it's definitely worth your time and money at that price. And speaking of that price, the next one we have at that same price point is a game called The Longest 5 Minutes. The game starts at the end of a very long, very difficult journey that you made with your ragtag group of RPG characters. And unfortunately, you got amnesia. You don't remember anything. Your character can't remember their name, or where they're from, or why they're even there. As you're staring down the main antagonist of this game, yes, you are there at the big bad enemy, and you can't remember why. And of course, you can't continue on without remembering things. You can't fight without remembering how to fight, or even really why you're doing it. Your friends try to help and jump in and jog your memory a little bit. And this is actually how you play the game. You basically go back through the main character's memories and relive and relearn things. And what's interesting about it is there's a little clock at the upper right-hand corner that at the point of 5 minutes, that will be when the game essentially ends. You get into that final battle. Although if you're worried about this game being short, rest assured when it says it's the longest 5 minutes, as explained in the title, that is very much the case. For me, this game took about 10 hours to beat, and it's pretty crazy even though you're starting at a point when you're face to face with the evil Demon King, the origin of all evil. And the thing that I really liked about it was it didn't feel like everything was already predetermined. You know, a lot of times when you play a game and you're living through the memories, it's like you already know what happens, essentially. You know your character makes it, you know who's gonna be there at the end, but yet in this game it was pretty easy to just kind of forget about that and to really immerse yourself in the history of these characters and how they got to this place where they're finally at the end of this crazy journey. I'll also say too, this is a more traditional turn-based RPG. The graphics and art style are like pixel art, but they're not the greatest if I'm being honest. Like, it's fine. It's nothing to write home about though. But I think most of the idea of this game really is just how the story is told, like how you experience the game itself. And like I said, this is one of those games I would not suggest purchasing at $40, but at $4, yeah, it's definitely a buy. And now my favorite game on this list, one that I actually would kind of consider purchasing at $40, is a game called Penny Punching Princess. Now, this is a game that I haven't played before, never really heard about, but when I saw this game on sale, I definitely had to pick it up, and wow, it's crazy. It's a beat 'em up where essentially every time you beat up your enemies, they drop money. And you can use this money to then purchase more enemies or to disable traps, to do all sorts of stuff. And the great thing is, this game is a just hilarious take on capitalism and unfettered capitalism, but to the point where it also explains the downside of it. So essentially, your father, the king, was also incredibly wealthy, but then he got into some debts, and essentially the debts end up killing him, and there you are, looking to reclaim his throne, his crown, to build your kingdom up. And just like any good capitalist, the best part of gaining money is buying people. And that's exactly what you do. It's one of the most unique mechanics I've seen in a game, especially a beat 'em up. Because while there's a bunch of enemies on the screen, you can literally just bribe them and buy them, and they just go away. Well, the cool thing is they don't just go away. They actually go back to your kingdom. And when they go back to your kingdom, this unlocks a lot of different stuff. And it's not just people, by the way. Like I said, there's a lot of like traps and little mechanisms throughout the levels that will trip you up, and you can purchase them as well. And all of that turns into a net profit for you, because this is how you can access like new armor. This is how you can grow your kingdom. But at the same time, you also have to worry about money, because you're going to be up against a lot of enemies, and some of them you might want to just purchase to get out of the way, or some traps that you really need disabled. It's crazy how much of a difference it can make. Like one of the final battles in like the second chapter, I just kept getting my butt kicked over and over again. I couldn't figure out how to get past it. And then just to break down how this mechanic really starts is essentially you'll be running around a level, and you can have free access to anything, but then you'll end up triggering a battle. And in this, like, you're essentially sectioned to just a certain area. You can't go anywhere off the screen, and a bunch of enemies attack. Well, I was in one of these scenarios, and it just so happened I purchased one of the traps. It was like a cannon type thing. Lo and behold, after I bought the cannon and basically just vanished it from the map, I had no problem. I beat all the bad guys and moved on really quickly. But it's things like that that you really have to think about when you're playing this game, and how what you purchase or who you purchase can affect your entire run. Honestly, this is a great game for like those short burst sessions when maybe you just have like 10-20 minutes and you just want to do, a chapter or a level or two, and then come back to it later. At the same time, I will say though, I have had many experiences where I've played it quite a bit longer. Also, I have to say, because it's so important, especially with this game, performance is fantastic. Never had any sort of issues with like lag or stuttering or anything of that nature. It's a really good game at a really great price. Anyway, those are just 3 games I definitely wanted to talk about, especially before time ran out. So yeah, since that was time sensitive, I wanted to get that one out. But I do have a lot of videos that we're working on. It just, child being sick, and now we're getting like blizzards and everyone's trapped in the house. It's kind of hard to get them out, but I will continue to get content out. Anyway, thank you guys so much. You guys are the best. You're amazing, and I truly, truly mean that. Anyway, let me know what your thoughts are. Are you going to pick up any of these games? Are there any other games that you're looking at? Anything and everything down in the comment section below is so much appreciated. I love each and every one of you guys. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.